So namaste, welcome to Satsang this evening. It is really wonderful to be back here in person after a very long time, and welcome to those online as well. I don't quite know how I'm going to do the question and answer session. Maybe we'll take one from the room and then one from online. We'll alternate it. It's been a while since we've done that. So Satsang is, as always, a place to really come to experience directly what we actually are. And as such, I wanted to dive into that tonight, to really start with a meditation and just immerse ourselves in the true nature of our being, the real self, which is always here, always available, always eternally present. So to recognize what we are is going to begin to shift our identity. It's going to begin to shift who we know ourselves to be. It's going to begin to override the idea that we are a separate being. It's going to begin to override all our thoughts, negative emotions, and everything else that we're suffering from. So let's dive into that now. We will just meditate for probably 15 or 20 minutes, and just, you can do this with your eyes open or closed. It really doesn't matter. You can sit however you want to. You don't need to sit in any special position. And we're just going to take a few moments to listen to the silence while we're here. We can begin by just relaxing, taking a moment just to recognize that we're here. We're here and we're present in this room. We're present online. And in the absence of these words, around these words, underneath these words, is a silence that's perhaps more noticeable when I stop speaking at first. So we're just going to listen to the silence. And it's not a meditation where we're trying to get anywhere. We're not trying to get anything. We are just listening. And we don't listen. We're not really making a huge effort, really. We're just sitting and listening. Sometimes we'll hear the silence. And sometimes we'll hear our thoughts. Our attention will wander. We'll find ourselves noticing thoughts, the internal noise of the mind. So our attention is going to wander. We're listening to the silence. And if our attention wanders at any point, we can simply bring it back to the silence. We don't need to try to fix anything with this meditation. We're not going to become anything. Just coming to notice that which is always here. So bringing our attention to that empty silence. Noticing that it's here right now. That we didn't have to do anything to get it. Coming to notice that we don't have to get rid of anything either to notice silence. We don't have to push anything away. It's just here. as we recognize this silence that's present, but mostly in the background of our experience. We can see that it doesn't have any agenda. It's not trying to get somewhere. It is stable, it is permanent, it is already here. Each time that we notice and spend some time recognizing the silence, it will change us inside. It will allow us to slow down. That we don't need to make any effort. We're just tuning into what's already here. And at any time, if our attention wanders to a thought, to a sensation in our body, to a noise outside, to an emotion or some energy that's moving, you can just gently bring attention back to the silence. Silence is always present. It isn't obscured by thoughts. Thoughts are just floating around in the silence. You're just listening to nothing at all, listening to silence. Every time we bring our attention to this, it becomes clearer and clearer, more and more obvious. There is something about us that's always here. It's unchanging. It is restful and still. Just being like the silence, letting what comes come and what goes go. It's a very simple thing to just listen to silence. allowing your body to relax in the silence. We don't have to try to keep it. We don't have to do anything at all. Just listening. Just noticing our whole being begins to slow down, begins to relax. Inherently, just by noticing the silence, listening, we begin to be it, to live as it. In a simple meditation, just to listen, to silence. Sometimes we'll hear silence and sounds. And sometimes just silence. Anything that arises may pull the attention. A nice feeling, or an emotion, or some energy moving. You can simply just bring attention back to listening. What am I listening to right now? Am I listening to silence, in which the thoughts are just happening? Or am I listening to the thoughts? Noticing that silence is effortless. It's just here. It is undisturbed by any sound. Resting in the silence. Could our awakening then be just simply coming back to this over and over? Diving deeper into this. When we notice silence, thoughts are just happening for a while. They're not happening to us. They're not my thoughts. There's just silence and thoughts. Just enjoying being here in the silence. So in a few moments, we'll be bringing this meditation to a close. But as we do so, we can begin to recognize that it is always here. The silence is always available, always present. It's simply a matter of where our attention is. And more Our attention is just wanting to come back to the silence, falling in love with the peace, the quietness, the contentment that happens when we recognize this silence. As we do this more and more, we find that attention comes back here by itself. So, whenever you're ready, if you want to open your eyes, you can, you don't have to. So I have a lot of questions that have been emailed in, so I'll read through a couple of these and then we'll take some questions either online or in the room. So this first one says, Dear Helen, there seems to be some conflict between my humanness and the empty awareness that I am. An 18-year marriage ended 4 years ago, and for the first time, I am absolutely loving being alone and see quite clearly that I am empty awareness. This is so peaceful and love delving deep into that. However, when my attention turns to the world and being with people or making new friends, there is some confusion as to what I want. As if a part of me always wants to be alone and another part of me wants to be with people. But the seemingly human side of me feels it's quite dangerous being with people and brings up a lot of fear. Shoulds and shouldn'ts, people pleasing, rebellion, etc. I've done a lot of work on myself in therapies, 12-step programs, and non-duality, etc. But it seems like an endless task, and I never seem to resolve issues of my uncomfortableness and fear with people, which stops me enjoying this. Although I love being around them at times, it's always this that pushes me into wanting to be alone. So there is this sort of push and pull going on, and I'm wondering what the crux of it is. I could deal with rather than keeping going around in circles with reoccurring thought patterns and old behavior that I never seem to get to the bottom of. Could you say anything about this, please? So this is very similar to my experience when I was waking up this fear of being around others. Do you want to move over if you can see? It's better. That's good. And it comes from this idea, it stems from this idea that there are separate beings, that we are separate beings. It stems from this underlying assumption that we all have, don't we? We all start from this idea that we're separate to one another. So I would suggest for this, really beginning to contemplate, to ask the question, is there really any other beings? And I know it sounds like a crazy question. When I first asked myself that, there really seemed like lots of beings and lots of beings I was having a challenge with at the time. But the silence, when we recognize the silence or the field or the awareness, as you called it here, is that separate? Our essential nature, our deepest nature, where does that end? Where does my awareness stop and your awareness start? Is there really such a dividing line here? And it's the assumption that we're separate that brings fear, because the moment I feel separate to anything, there is a fear arising. So I can feel comfortable when I'm on my own, and then when I'm around other beings, I start to feel uncomfortable, start to feel really more and more uncomfortable by the moment. And it's really from this idea that there's other beings outside of me, separate to me, that I can't control, that I can't be sure of my safety. And the people pleasing starts then, as you said here, this person has said here. And the push pull is I want to get away from these imagined other beings. I want to get away from them. At the same time, I'm longing for this deep intimacy and connection with life. So how am I going to deal with that? Well, really just to examine this core idea, isn't it? That there is, in fact, another being outside of me. There is an edge to me. There is a point where I stop and somebody else starts. Somebody else's beingness starts here. Is that really true? And we really look. Yes, my body stops here, but what about me? How far do I reach? How far do I go in all directions from here? And we can check this out right now. If I can't find an edge to my beingness, or the silences we were just listening to, then how can I be sure that there are any other beings? There's lots of other bodies, all these bodies gathered here in this room and online. How many beings are here? How can we be certain of that? So I'd really suggest just checking that out and questioning. Feeling separate to anything is going to bring fear. It's going to bring emotion, negative emotion, and suffering. Because the very moment I feel separate to anything, I'm going to feel it's out of my control. And I can't control my safety if there's something else that is outside of my purview. So I hope that helps. We'll go through one more. Dearest Helen, if there is only one, is it even possible that life's appearances could ever be any different than they are appearing? Does everything unfold exactly and precisely as it's supposed to, spontaneously? I suppose dissolution of the individual negates supposed. Is there really even free will to view either from a separate person apparently moving through space and time, or from the invisible presence that never moved? Or is it just seen when it's seen? Is it realized upon dissolution of the imagined separate character that nothing could or should be any different than what is, because that's all there is? I.e., no such thing as an alternative, because there's no division at all. So therefore no movement at all, just this. So wouldn't it even occur that the appearance could be improved or better or different, etc.? I hope my ponderings have enough clarity. Thank you so much. Lots of love, respect, and appreciation for your sharings. So if there isn't a separate being to mess this awakening up, it's good news, right? Then everything is just appearing spontaneously, as you've said here. Everything is just happening right now. These words are just happening, aren't they? Coming out of the silence. These bodies are appearing. All of this is arising, just happening. When we really start to get this, it really brings a lot of peace, because the mind works in what ifs and alternatives. What if I'd made this choice instead of the one that I did make? What if I had not done that thing or said that thing that I said? But if what is occurring in this moment is the highest possibility that's possible, right now this is the best version of reality that was available. The appearance of manifestation is the highest appearance. All of this here. And nothing else was possible than that. Then we can relax, can't we? Because we're always getting then the best version of what is. So the silence just is, and it's not changing. Our essential nature just is. But the shapes that that silence is taking are constantly changing, moving in manifestation, always becoming and changing. And if there really is no separate entity called me that's making a decision in that way, although there seems to be, then what is arising right now as this moment is the best possible version. As we relax into that, the next moment is going to be even better. So even more peace inside, even more joy, even more abundance in an external way. And really, as you've pointed to here, the only choice we have really is whether we're focused on the essential nature of our being in any moment, or whether we're focused on thoughts, whether we're focused on our ideas about ourselves, whether we're focused on what we think is happening. We can choose that. We can choose to bring our attention back to what's eternal, essential, but it doesn't mean there's a separate being choosing. It is the self already choosing, falling in love with itself more and more, starting to recognize more and more its essential nature. So I hope I've answered your question there. Yeah, it does. The supposed dissolution of the individual negates the supposed, because there wasn't an individual in the first place. Hopefully as clear as mud. Spend hours and hours trying to talk about something that never really existed, which is quite funny. Okay, so if anyone online has a question, or anyone here in the room would like to share or ask a question, we'll see how we go. How much time have we got? Okay. So if you want to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand on Zoom or here in the room. You just sit in the hot seat.
Yeah, get my mask on for the long journey.
I appreciate you doing it. We'll come to Natasha afterwards.
It's lovely to be here, Helen. Lovely to be here.
It's lovely to be back together and being able to meet in person, isn't it?
I should thank the person who wrote the question that you just spoke about, because it's allowed me to de-escalate a question to an observation, I think.
Okay.
I was making things maybe a little bit complicated. So a couple of weeks ago, you led us in a meditation where you were very firm that we should keep our eyes open.
I'm kind of mean like that sometimes. Yeah.
I'm very grateful that you were, because I found it very difficult to do. I'd had this sense that spiritual practice is something I do in a particular place with my eyes closed, and then that finishes and I get on with the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So since finding that difficult, I've started my meditation practice with 10 minutes with my eyes open each time, and it's really allowed me to sort of start to smudge and blur the line between when I'm meditating and when I'm not.
Yeah.
It has, though, it's brought up quite a lot in terms of the link between this space that I seem to be looking through and me. So when I then close my eyes for the rest of my meditation, there's a sense that there's almost a letterbox that's had something put over the front of it. And in the meditation you led today, I found it easier to do with silence than with vision, even though both of them are they're just motion out there. There's no real difference between silence and the contextual field. So I guess what I'm observing, and what I was going to ask about is this comes down, I guess, to being quite tied to the body and to the senses. But just now I had this sense that there's this vastness where I am. and a little peephole that I can come and look through, which is where these eyes seem to be. I'm not sure where that's going to take me, but if it causes as much progress as forcing myself to keep my eyes open, then I think it will certainly help.
It's really common, isn't it? That, I mean, when I started meditating, it was, I sit in this chair at this time and I sit for so long, and that's my meditation, and then I'm done for the day and I go back to life, as you were saying. And but as meditation started to feel so much nicer, I wanted to do it all the time. And this is why I started to do it with my eyes open. And it's really, really difficult because, as you said, there's all these assumptions. Even just, silly little things like I couldn't get the cushion right behind me when I was sitting with my eyes open. It just wouldn't work. And then I realized I was very, very attached to meditation is something I'm doing when I sit down here. And of course, it starts off like that, doesn't it? But then what if the meditation then becomes, I'm noticing the vast emptiness of my being, in which my body's just running around doing things. Sometimes it sits down and meditates, and sometimes it's just cooking or driving or whatever it's doing. And it's really cool then, because you can be in meditation constantly, or more and more and more, and eventually constantly. And it's happening more and more effortlessly then, isn't it? And, you can just, if you're talking to someone that you'd rather not be listening to, you're just kind of noticing the spaciousness and smiling at them, and they think you really like them, and it's great, So it's on a more serious note, though, it's you'll find that your body is more attuned to one particular thing. You might find listening to silence easier than noticing the emptiness or the field, as we've been calling it. And that's okay, isn't it? Everyone has their own way into the self. You find that one's your favorite, that's okay. But just challenging these boundaries like you've done. Does meditation have to happen when I'm seated? Do I have to come out of it? There's this strong desire for me at the end. Like, I just don't want to ever come out of meditation because it feels so nice. Do I have to? And that's what drove me to push through these boundaries, like you've been saying.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to Natasha when you're ready.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you very much for showing up in my life. I mean, I kind of manifested you.
Wonderful.
You're my higher self speaking to me.
Lovely.
So I was listening to your cause and effect satsang, and every time I listen to it, I just drift into a deep slumber, like it's very peaceful. And then I wake up, and I know that what you have been saying, I have been listening even while I was sleeping. And then you were answering a question, and then something happened to me, like an epiphany, that I've been born into a very, my father's side and mother's side, like considering karmically very, very loaded, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm being born I'm an Indian, so I believe in karma. And then this thought appeared in my mind that said, if you follow these simple steps, this lifetime, you're done. Your karma is all done. All this hundreds and years of birth is done. And when I heard that, it felt like chains came off of me. The burden went off, and healing happened. I never felt like this before. I've had awakenings. I have had spiritual experiences, but this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. It feels so good. But the fear comes up that I don't want to regress into what I was before. I just want to continue and deepen it. That's all I want to say, that I do feel this fear, especially around evening time after the dinner and I'm getting ready for bed. I have this fear. What am I doing? This doesn't work. It's all going to be like before again. Painful things of other people that you cannot do much, but you have to sit and watch that happening. And but then I listen to you, or I listen to Eckhart Tolle, or I listen to spiritual teacher, and I try to go to bed. And the funny thing is, the other day I was listening to jazz music, like, the simple jazz music, and I started doing your meditation, open eye meditation, and I felt bliss. The jazz music, every note of it was hitting the right. I mean, I can't explain how blissful it felt. So again, thank you so much. And if you could say a little bit, I know you have said many times before about fear, but just a little bit about.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's helpful to check out if this fear keeps coming back and keeps knocking on the door, then maybe there's something there that you need to investigate. So whenever I had any doubts or anything, I used to push them away at first, and then I began to realize maybe this is my mind asking for help with this thing. So if your mind is saying to you, oh, this is really wonderful what's happening right now, but you're gonna slide backwards, right? You're gonna lose this. Of course, that's going to bring some fear, because we don't want to lose this. Obviously, we want to come to live effortlessly as this. So wherever there's a doubt, we can turn that into a question. And I know I'm always going on about questions, but actually taking this head on, this doubt, and seeing maybe my mind is worried about it, but it can't actually find the answer to it. So can I ask then, can I actually lose this? Can I slide backwards? If I really sit with this question, this beautiful thing that's happening in my awakening now is really speeding up, and I'm really seeing clearer and clearer. Can I lose that seeing? Because that's really what the crux of the fear is, isn't it? That I might not make it all the way in this lifetime, and have to start all over again, and something like that. So I'd really suggest finding out really what the doubt is, what the worry is, and using that as a question to sit with, to contemplate. Can I really lose this? Let me actually look at it. Because if I don't, then I'm going to be at the effect of feeling the doubt. I'm going to be scared of it. Yeah. Does that feel alive to you? Kind of a question inside. Can I really go backwards now? If we don't question that, we're going to have to experience it. But if you question that and stay with it until you have a deep, deep knowing inside that it's just not possible. It's not something up here we're looking for. It's something inside where we have an epiphany, where it's just obvious that I can't slide backwards. So stay with the question till then. You'll find that the moment you begin to embrace the doubt, you stop suffering from it. It's because we're kind of pushing it away energetically that it has such a great effect on us.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Good. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. We have another question. Sarah, when you're ready.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Oh, it's so nice to see you, like you're in a room and everything.
I know we're all three-dimensional.
It's different somehow, even though we're on Zoom, it's different seeing you. It's lovely. Okay, so I have this question, and but I'm hoping that it will form itself in a way that feels like, oh, that is what I wanted to ask. So there is no individual me. There's these thoughts that are going on with Sarah that are very much part of her personality and her lineage or whatever. They don't belong to anyone. They don't, do they? It's like there is this silent awareness that I can't even, that even talking about it, it's because it's kind of nothing, isn't it? It's I mean, for me at the moment, it's just a kind of stopping that's always there. It's like a stopping. And then there's all this activity that just never stops. Like I think you talked about the rain falling. You don't kind of look at all the raindrops falling, going, "There's rain 24/7." You just let it fall, and
you're not running around trying to organize the raindrops.
Yeah,
we're doing that with our thoughts, right? This one should go away. This one should stay.
Yeah. So no, it's just vibration, and I work with it being vibration. Yeah. And welcoming it in that way as vibration. But then I've always had this idea that there's an individual kind of something evolving, but actually there's no individual evolving, is there? There's just evolving.
Well, it depends what you mean by individual, right? I'm a bit of a etymology nerd, and the word individual does not necessarily mean separate. When we actually look at the meaning, it comes from indivi, which is Latin for indivisible, and then dual, which means two. So what the individual is the indivisible one appearing as two or many. So if we're sure what we mean by individual rather than separate, then there is, just like a wave on the ocean surface is individual, it will be unique one. It will never be the same again. There's never going to be a wave that's similar to that one.
And that's for that lifetime. That's for Sarah's lifetime. That wave that's a two that's actually part of the one.
If you think of the field, the silent awareness, as you called it, as the ocean, and then the individuality that is Sarah is the wave, and the body is just the crest of the wave, that kind of, the white bubbly stuff on the top that goes. And the analogy falls down there because the wave exists forever in this. The individuality is always here. So we are the spaciousness in which all of this is appearing, and we're also a multidimensional being. There's a body, there's thoughts, there's emotions, there's different layers or dimensions to our individuality happening inside the great space of our being. It's not one or the other.
So when the crest dissolves, then the rest of the wave
still there.
Is still there, and it takes another form, another crest.
Yeah. We don't recognize that so much because we're so busy looking at the body. Because one thought arises in a head that says, "This is me." And then all these thoughts are my thoughts suddenly, aren't they then? Yeah. And we're so busy focusing on that we seem to ignore everything else that we are.
Right. So when I say these thoughts aren't mine, right? But still there is the rest of the wave that aren't thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a near-death experience in my early 20s, and and it was a real clear answer to something that I'd sort of said minutes before, driving down that. Exactly. I was like, what's life for? I'd been meditating. I think I was really depressed, and I was like, I just don't get the point. Next minute, I know I'm lying on the Holloway Road, having been knocked off my bike, looking at my body going, shit, why isn't everyone stopping? That's when I really got, oh my God, it's like a plastic world I'm looking at here, and I'm here. It disembodied. And then I went down the tunnel. It was really classic, met Jesus and these rainbow beings. And so I was still very much, of course I was,
you were still you, even though the body was over there.
Exactly. So does that just go on?
Yeah.
It does.
Time to time it'll decide, the individuality of you will decide to have another incarnation, to work through whatever unfulfilled desires are stored in our karmic patterns, memories, whatever. But as you come to this kind of lifetime, you've got the capability now to finally fulfill those desires, to finally feel safe, or to realize that you've always been safe, to finally feel loved, or to realize that you are that love.
Yeah.
all of that begins to become clearer.
But and that's kind of what I've sort of felt that in my life, throughout my life, but at the same time, it feels like I don't know. I mean, I know I'm all sensation, I know vibration and sensation, but it's almost like without the thoughts, the thoughts and the conversations that go on in my head, I just know that as sensation and vibration.
Anything that isn't possible after your head goes is not essential, is it? Thoughts, emotions, experiences, all of that will stop at some point when the body goes, as you've experienced. But
no, I didn't. You see, I didn't, because I was really emotional, because Jesus said, "You can come with us now," and I was like, "Is my granny there?" He was like, "Everyone's here that you want."
But emotion as in a thing cascading through the body, those things.
I did. I was really frightened, and I said, "No, I can't come with you because I've got to die without fear, and I'm frightened." And I screamed my way back into my body. So I didn't experience myself without emotion.
Okay. So, well, now as you're coming to awaken, you'll begin to have that recognition that when this body falls off, it is just the tip of that wave. It is beautiful, right? We have this human experience, we can have this human experience. And without the changing and becomingness of the body and the mind, we wouldn't be able to recognize that which is stable and invisible and unchanging about us. Like you need the waves to recognize the ocean. But you recognize that's always going to be there, isn't it? The ocean of your being.
Yeah. But I'm still a wave in that ocean, even when I'm in this absolute silence and
you are the ocean.
I'm not identifying with the thought of Sarah.
Yeah, you're the ocean, and you are all the waves, all of them.
And I am that experience. I'm the experience and the experiencer. I'm the whole thing. Yeah. I feel like actually there's nothing I can do but shut up now. There's nothing to say, really, is there? Just carry on.
I think we have. I think we've got it though from this conversation, haven't we?
Thank you.
Good to talk to you.
Thanks, Helen. You too.
So would anyone else like to ask a question or share? Steve, we'll go to.
Unless any newcomers want to go first.
That's okay. Oh, does somebody else have a hand up? No. Go for it.
Okay. I'm going to bring it right down to earth now.
That's okay.
Over the last, since you know me, I also have bouts of depression, I call it. I've had it most of my life. And every few weeks it'll come up for a week or two, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. And it happened for so long. I was telling people, touching wood, I said, I think it's gone. And lo and behold, next day it starts, it started to creep back in. And I did see it creeping back in. And it came from absolutely nowhere. They do, it's strange. One morning I was okay, afternoon it was starting, and here we go again. But I don't know if it ties in what Alex was saying about the eyes open meditation. So I started to do it. I do it a day back on my own, because when you're with people, you keep getting eye contact and you get a little smile. So I shook my eyes in here, but I like to do that these days. And I think what's happened with that, when I general meditation, I like meditation on the where am I or I am or whatever, it takes me into this art area, should I say. And when this depression, low energy, whatever it is, it's a low mood, low energy, when this comes up, when I go into that, it's the same area, it's the same stuff, and I find myself getting locked in there. So I'm squirming about in there with, and I've found with this I did realise, I mean, after a few days after it started, on last Saturday it started, I was sort of, with my eyes open, I could enter into more of a higher vibration, looking into the different, does that make sense?
They're getting less involved with it. When
I'll try, yeah, I felt like it, yeah.
You just watch it.
But it's started to creep back up again, but I'm sort of it. But you did say something a few weeks about things that keep cropping up and they keep cropping up, and just look for the changes in it. This might not be finished, but you'll see the change. And I've sort of totally seen the change. It's a different carry on completely to what it's been before.
That's good.
Although it's ready to go. I'm scared of saying this because it starts on me,
But if this pattern has been happening for such a long time, it's really easy to just say, well, it's here again. Why is it here again? Not this again. But if we can make an effort, like you just said, to recognize, well, it hasn't been here in a long time. And although it's back, this feeling, it doesn't feel quite as, I can get a little bit more distance from it when I'm watching it, and when I can be with it a little bit more. I'm not quite resisting as much as what I did last time. And those are all so important to recognize, as you were saying, because then it's going to change your next experience of it. If we just kind of go, not this again. Of course, we're not going to enjoy it.
There. It does start there.
It always starts there.
Well, I'm not again disappointed.
But is it different this time, as you've said?
Very
has
much
it been
so,
a longer gap since it came?
So,
does it last for a shorter time while it's happening? These things are really important to recognize.
It's heavy when it's on, it don't seem, there's a lightness about it. Or I can step in, I can feel myself in a lightness looking at it.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit dual. I think that's all I'm going to ask you. It feels dual now, I'm looking at.
There's some part of us that's still invested in this feeling. I don't want this. Why is it here again? Maybe not these kind of conscious thoughts, but kind of like, no, not this again.
Yeah.
I thought it had gone forever. And now it's back again. And there's also the self that is just, it's not really caring in that way, is it? It's just letting it be, this feeling, this heaviness or whatever.
There's times I can be like that. It's not necessarily that.
It's not going to be one or the other for a while, is it? There'll be something that's involved in this feeling. It doesn't want it, the egoic sense of self, because ego has this list of these things on this side will have gone when I'm awakened, and these things will have come.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Peace, love, joy, bliss, depression, fear, anger, shame, all gone. Yeah. And it looks at the list and goes, you're not supposed to be here. You didn't get an invite for this, sorry. So ego's going to look at that and feel it's going to use it as evidence that we're not there yet. That is going to happen for a while, isn't it? If you can notice that too.
I've done that. I'm not taking this as a failure or even other way. It's just happening. So,
and we can stretch this out as far as it goes. What if for the rest of your life it comes and goes every now and again? Does that have to mean? I mean, it probably won't. At some point, it will stop happening. But just for the sake of this exercise here, what if it never really fully left you?
Yeah, but as I sort of thought, but I got a glimpse of, but I can see where looking at it is not the same as suffering from it. So even if it did come again, it wouldn't be as.
So more important than whether it's here or not is where I'm looking at it from.
There you go. Yeah.
Right, where I'm looking at it from. If I'm looking at it from the self, I really won't mind it being there, and I won't be suffering. Because my to-do list is empty, things I need to do before I'm awakened or whatever, ego says.
Yeah.
So maybe then it has to come back a little bit more to practice, to allow some practice. Where am I looking at it from? Right. And when this shift over has happened to, I'm looking at this really only, or 99% from the self. That's just, as you said, just kind of watching it from this higher place. Yeah. And really doesn't mind so much whether it's here or not, then it will probably really begin to diminish. And you probably accidentally slid into that, which is why it hasn't been there for a while. You know,
Possibly.
to just watching it, and then it pops back up to say, well, where are you going to look at me from now?
So that is a new part. It is new
Yeah.
for me to see it from there.
Yeah.
So that's a bit exciting. Then it starts soaking its way up. We go again. But I sort of mentioned it anyway. But
That's good. And just that question, where am I looking at this from? It was pivotal for me, because it was fear for me. Like, oh, this again, you know.
you know exactly what
It should just go away now. I just don't, you know. Very good.
Thank you. Oh, nice.
Whole 2 steps. We've got time for one more. If there's one more question online or here. Okay, Sharon. And we'll finish with you, Sharon.
Sorry, I was muted. Hi.
Hi.
My question is, I'll just kind of start with a little bit of a realization that I had a few times. So I was coming to some struggles from a place of really needing to find forgiveness for myself for past actions, and really deeply in a belief system that, you know, the idea of killing people with kindness, like my step forward in life is to be kind and good and social justice, and kind of had an experience that really flipped me over on that, and really experienced the other side of that, where somebody wasn't coming forward to bring kindness to me at a point where I needed that in my life. So I kind of processed that and thought, not safe within myself. Like I'm not making good decisions because I'm extending kindness and goodness to people that I would believe they would give that back to me. But when push comes to shove, their ability to be unkind and cruel was pretty shocking and intense for me to have that actual full circle experience. So before, when I was thinking and asking you questions, it was about, how do I find forgiveness for myself for my wrongdoing? How do I trust myself? Because my approach to relationships of being kindness was actually not kind in terms of that realization. So I've really contemplated that a lot and did some more traditional work around that, and then came to this place of like, oh my goodness, like I experienced a lot of trauma and torturous and cruel behavior towards me that I wasn't recognizing, because I was in this place of, I need to be kind and forgiving of other people. So I came to this solid place of like, it was in an instant, and it clicked, was like, oh, I need to know these people aren't safe for me. So the safe for me changed from me not being safe for others, because my approach of kindness, to this instant like realization of, well, they're not safe for me. And then I automatically just had this shift in my head. I was like, well, why are they not safe? Is it true that they're not really safe? So it was like this whole, like seeing it from the other side of the road.
Yeah.
It was really odd. It was just kind of like the same experience from 2 different
Because you've looked at this thing for so long from this particular way, haven't you? That you've got to do something, you've got to change, and then suddenly it flips on its head. To the opposite.
And then the realization with that flipping instantaneously, it was the same thing though, about questioning my safety, whether it was trusting in myself or safety of trusting in another. When you're talking, what brought this forward was the individual. Like as you described that, it was just kind of like, well, it is one and the same. No wonder it was the same. It was like really an awesome experience of seeing the full encompassing truth of it.
Yeah.
And then so my question is kind of like, my profession is that of, you know, as a therapist and social justice. And so now I'm left with this, well, how do I move forward with that? And even beyond like personal relationships is really what my true interest is, but I safely say kind of professionally, how do I, what is the inquiry around that? How do I bring forward my desire for goodness and my full realization of my purpose? Being mindful of both sides, I guess. I don't know if that's complicated to you, what I'm asking.
I think I've got it, but stop me if I haven't. If you want to feel, you want to feel safe, don't you, to be you, who you are in your individuality. It has got this purpose, this passion for something. And whether you feel unsafe because you don't feel adequate, you feel you have to change or forgive yourself for things like you were saying to start off with, or whether you feel unsafe because there seems to be others that are not being how you would like them to be with you. The whole theme underneath that is a lack of safety and security, isn't it? From wherever it seems to, either I'm not safe to be around or these others aren't safe to be around. It's kind of this core feeling underneath. So as you really look at that, and as you, I know you have been doing, but just to further that, if you look at that inside, it's going to bring out this question, again, where are you looking at this from? Are you looking from the one that's trying to, that is a DIY project, I've got to be this particular person to get my life right. I've got to be this particular way. Or are you looking at it from the self that is kind of just, I am where I am right now with this version of me, this individuality, and it's going to always improve as I allow that to do so. That's the way manifestation moves. It's always improving, and right now I'm being the best version of me I can be in that. And as you're broadcasting that loving self-acceptance, it changes everyone's way of interacting with you anyway, whether they realize it or not. And those that are genuinely not safe for you or not good to be around will move away. Those that really want to be around your new vibration are going to find their way to you in that.
Yeah, that's actually my unasked question, was that piece of knowing the safety of others and believing in the truth of goodness in some people, even though in moments they didn't show that.
Yeah.
So how do I know the difference? But I guess, as you're saying, as I'm living more of that, then they'll be closer or further.
There were certain people for me that when I really began to feel secure and I realized my security had never been in question, certain people left my life that really didn't have my best interests at heart, let's just say. And then there were other people that I moved away from, actually was able to finally distance myself in a healthy way from certain beings. And then there were other beings that just began to come that really did have my best interests at heart, and that was just all began. Some of it felt like a conscious decision. Okay, this person just really isn't healthy for me anymore, and perhaps never have been, but out of my unworthiness, I've been trying to make this thing work, thinking it's my fault. If I've done the work on myself, this person is still being as they're being, then maybe that's just a sign that it's time to move away, either physically or energetically or both, just that kind of distance.
Or my lack of being present in that is creating a distance.
Say that again?
Well, I'm just wondering if my lack of being authentic is creating a distance, and when I do the work on myself, then I'm more open in truth, and then that person's truth can reflect back to me as well.
Yeah. Whatever we're experiencing inside, we're going to experience outside. So if we're judging ourselves and all of that, criticizing ourselves, guess what we're going to have outside? And if the opposite's going on, if I'm loving myself as much as I can in this moment, then others are going to find it really hard to do anything other than that when they're around me, at least. They might go back to some lower vibration later when they're not with you, but it's, yeah. it has the experience, then the effect of your life is just much more full of loving people.
Yeah, that resonates truthfully with me.
Good, good.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so we'll leave it there for today. Lovely. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.